Hello everyone. Razorblade Mango here. So, I am here today to, I guess, talk through some thoughts that I have been having recently regarding PlayStation. And I have mainly been inspired to kind of come here and talk about it because of stuff that happened last week. Actually this week at the time of recording this, but you guys won't be able to see this video until the following week. And it has to do with PlayStation's future and I guess what I would consider a wall that they have hit, if that is something that I'm trying to find the right metaphor for this, where at first I thought they were at some kind of serious fork in the road, both from a creative and financial perspective. But the more that I think about it, especially with the announcement at the time of recording this today, that as it was rumored this week, that there are going to be significant price increases for various PS5 related products, like the digital edition, the normal standard version, I think the Portal is also getting a bump in price. I know the Pro definitely is. It's gonna be like $900 in US dollars, which, holy shit. Man, I don't exactly have notes for this, so y'all are gonna have to forgive me if I'm a little kind of on the fly with trying to think about this. But over the last few weeks, just with the general sense of some of the changes that Sony has been making behind the scenes, both good and bad, I would say mainly not great in certain cases, but there have been some things that I have been pretty vocally okay with, that I am championing. Like, I know this might piss some people in my audience off, or some people that might find this video off, but I am perfectly okay with them abandoning PC ports for their single player games. I am perfectly okay with that. I have been saying for many years that I think they need to establish a firmer exclusive identity with their first party software, and I think it's consistent with what I've said about Xbox and Nintendo over the years, where I feel like Nintendo has done a great job cultivating, reasons to buy their hardware with games that you can only find on that singular platform. And then you have it with Xbox, where I feel like in order to get back on track, they do need to start making exclusives again, even though I highly doubt they're going to. Whereas PlayStation has kind of had its foot in both camps, where they've talked about how important it is to keep people on the console, but then they also talk out of both sides of their mouth, where they then put games on PC like a year or so after launch, or sometimes even less than that, with Spider-Man 2 and Death Stranding 2. Even though that's second party, that's probably not the best example, but I'd say Spider-Man 2 is probably the best example, because how quickly that came to PC compared to their other exclusives at the time, which was really strange to me, especially with how shoddy that port is compared to a lot of their other efforts. I'm okay with them releasing things like God of War Sons of Sparta, even if I personally don't particularly like the game itself. I think the game, in my opinion, is kind of mediocre, but I am happy that they found success with, like, relatively decent success with it, because I actively encourage them to try to experiment and make smaller games like that, and try to make them in more, focused genres with lower budgets and lower scopes that aren't these like massive bloated 9-figure costing games that apparently that's like for a long time they, especially under the singular Jim Ryan regimes, that they were all on board that, where they just were like, fuck these smaller games, and just threw those mostly out the window, and then just started going for these massive, big budgeted games that were either single player or live service. And then you end up in a situation where here we are now, where they have squandered so much goodwill throughout this generation because of their very incompetent leadership in a lot of areas, especially with this live service initiative. And then you have it where you've reached a point where, because of their financial decisions and the fact that they now have to course correct, because as any person with even a mild, mild knowledge of this industry, I felt like the track they were on was completely unsustainable, especially if they were going to start, releasing things like Concord and Marathon, which has ended up selling, I would imagine, selling much softer than what they were expecting. I'll have another, in a few weeks' time, I'll probably do a whole live stream dedicated to Marathon, because I have a lot to say about that game, just from like a, as some people put it, as an armchair analyst perspective. There's another one, like a number Nazi, I think somebody said, and like I find that to be like, it's meant to be an insult, but I find that to be a very amusing term. I think it is kind of funny, especially with how it kind of like rolls off the tongue. And I am all for like a good insult, and I do find that funny, so I don't get like mad hearing that kind of insulting label for what I like to do, which I like to look at numbers and I like to talk about it. Sorry, this is what I do. So I think with that being said, I think we have reached a point with PlayStation where, going back to the wall metaphor, where they have built and built and built, and I will grant them that some of this is with circumstances that are beyond their control, such as, fucking OpenAI taking up so much of the RAM now where they have to compete for it, especially for the next gen console. And they also have to deal with the fucking tariffs, which I will give them, I'll say this, and I'll be fair, because I said the same thing about Xbox. I gave them grace on the first time they did this, and I went, okay, that's fine. This time around, though, I'm like, okay, guys, like this is too much. Like, this is way too much. Like, come on now, it's getting ridiculous. Like, they played their one tariff card with me, and now it's like, nah, they're doing it again. So I would say this is like half economic status, but it's an economic situation that they have created, where I think that's like my ultimate point too with like the wall, is that they complain about increasing economic pressures, and I'm kind of looking at them and going like, yeah, but you guys played a role in this increasing economic pressure, where you guys went so far beyond with trying to include these like fancy high-tech graphics and the most premium stuff in your games. You want to be like this like premium product where you're hiring all these, you're spending like tens of millions of dollars on hiring like established actors from like Hollywood and like TV and movies. You want to add all this, I would argue in most cases, like pointless fluff to your games that balloon the budgets. Like, you want to include like hyper realistic facial animations and impressive hair physics and like rope physics and stone like wall physics and all this crap that doesn't really make the game more fun. In my opinion, it just makes the game, like, it looks pretty. Sure, it looks pretty, it looks impressive, but anytime now, it's reached a point where anytime now I look at a PlayStation game, like I look at as good as Saros looks, like, and I think Saros looks pretty cool. I look at a thing like Saros and I think to myself, okay, was it really necessary to hire Raul Cooley to be the lead character in that game and spend like a pretty penny on getting a Hollywood good like famous TV actor in there as the lead? Was that really necessary? Is it really necessary to include like all of these like this dialogue and new cutscenes and stuff, and hyper like focus animated cutscenes in your game when the main meat and potatoes of the game is supposed to be the punchy combat? Like, I don't mind if they put effort into that. Make that as like snappy and responsive as possible, because that's Housemarque's signature thing. But then they're trying to put all these like typical PlayStation isms in there that I'm just like, oh, okay, guys, like, come on. And then you also look at Intergalactic, which I look at that and I'm going like, granted, I haven't seen gameplay for it yet. Well, none of us have that don't work at the studio or don't work at PlayStation. And I look at that and I'm going like, why are you hiring all these Hollywood actors? Why are you paying to have brands like Adidas and Porsche in the game? Why are you bringing on Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, like really like expensive composers to bring in? You could be looking at more like junior talent, like trying to give them a shot and give them a big break from like the actors field and the music field. And it's just like, no, but they just chase after this prestige. And I'm kind of just like at a point where I am just, it's like, it's distracting now where I look at it and like all I can think to myself is, it's not, wow, this looks so premium and expensive and cool. It just makes me think, how much did this all cost and is this necessary? And then this also brings me to what I think about when it comes to like the future of PlayStation and the wall, where I think they have hit a point where they are going to have to either cut down even more than they already have been, because man, you look at the list of studios they've killed in like just the last 2 years alone. I mean, it is like people rightfully give Xbox a lot of shit for closing studios, but you look at the list of how many studios PlayStation have closed over the last this generation, and it's an average of like 1 a year at least. And then you'll have some years where like 3 studios get shut down, like 2024, where you had London, Neon Koi, and Firewalk. All 3 were shut down in a single year. And this year, dude, but at the time of recording this, we haven't even hit the end of March yet. And we already have had 2 studios shut down under PlayStation. Granted, one of them was more of an incubation team, but it's like, you know, you still gave them that money, you still gave them that room to create, and now you're telling them, oh, never mind, see ya. And then you have Bluepoint, who were a veteran studio under PlayStation for many, many years in a second-party capacity, and then you acquired them, which to me seemed like perfect, like a match made in heaven. This makes total sense. And then you completely squander them. And I'm trying not to, because I've said a lot of points too about, you know, I genuinely think like there are some people within PlayStation that need to go. I think you guys know like the obvious name in there, Mr. Boring Dutchman himself, who I continue to just be amazed that that guy is still around. Every day that passes with Herman Hulst at the helm of PlayStation Studios, I just like shake my head. I'm just like, why? Like, how is this guy still here? How is he still here? I mean, this doesn't make any sense to me. The other one that I find somewhat of a mixed bag, but I'm leaning like slightly more positive, somewhat, or maybe I would if the price increases didn't come into effect today, is Hideaki Nishino, who I do feel like they are making some good decisions. I feel like the focus on Japanese software and Japanese talent that they've been doing over the last few years is a good start to getting back into the good graces in Japan, even though I personally think it's too little too late, but something is better than nothing, is one of my best friends likes to say. I also think him releasing that region-locked console in Japan was a smart idea, you know, following in Nintendo's footsteps. I've said for a long time that PlayStation needs to look at Nintendo for some inspiration, and that seems to be kind of what they're doing, at least on that end. And then the fact that I imagine under him, they're starting to put their first-party single-player games strictly on their consoles again, getting rid of these PC ports. I think that's a great idea. I have no problem with the live services, or the few they have left, going to PC, because we found out with Marathon, that's, I guess with a game like Marathon, where that's a hardcore PvP VE extraction shooter, you can't look, I talk about numbers, like numbers don't lie. You look at the stats from what's allegedly been put out there, and it's like, Jesus, imagine if that didn't come to PC. 70% of the audience is on Steam. Oh man, that's fucking brutal, dude. Because you're losing 30% off the rip right there to Valve, and it's like, oh man. So I'll save the Marathon talk for another day, but holy shit. So I look at PlayStation, I'm thinking more like the PS6, where we're losing teams that could have been getting projects spooled up for the next generation. Teams like Bluepoint and Dark Outlaw. We could have had something from, I don't know, we could have had something from Bluepoint by now if they weren't fucking around with a bunch of crap under Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst when that fucking Jimmy boy was still there. Dark Outlaw, I know they're thinking, fuck, we gotta spend like probably $200-300 million on this project, but it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like how I feel like with Naughty Dog, where I remember when Naughty Dog, when they canceled The Last of Us Online, which in hindsight probably would have been a bigger success than Marathon is right now. So I look at kind of like that mindset where they did all of this stuff and they spent all of this money, and yet they couldn't, I guess it didn't come into their minds during the conceptual and development phase or the incubation phase of some of these projects, just some obvious truths like, oh shit, if we make The Last of Us Online, we're gonna have to support it. We spent all this money on it, we're gonna have to support it, and that might impact our other stuff at our team, including Intergalactic. Oh shit. It's like, really? Did nobody at Naughty Dog think that? Did Neil Druckmann really not think that? While he was helping out with The Last of Us Online? Really? He's supposed to be like the bigwig over, like one of the bigwigs over at Naughty Dog? And like that never came into his head? It's like, seriously? And then I think of like Herman Hulst. It's like, dude, you're the guy. Like, you and Jim Ryan were the people who really like took a lot of stock out of Japan and put it more in the West and put it more in really expensive places to develop, like California, like Washington State, like the Netherlands, like London. It's like they went out of their way to choose some of the most expensive places to develop in the fucking world. And then all of a sudden, all these years later, it's like nobody had things like inflation or rising development costs on their mind in the C-suite or in the boardroom. And then now we are with this reality, and they're going, oh fuck, now we have to kill off studios, we have to cancel projects, we have to fire people. It's like, no shit, dude. Like I said, it's the same thing with like Jimmy Boy when he's like, we're gonna have 12 live services in development. It's like, are you that stupid to where like you can't see the obvious problems with that? You can't see the obvious problems. You can't see the obvious problems with finance. You can't see the obvious problems with culture disruption. You can't see the obvious problems with how the audience is going to see this, how the dedicated player base that you guys have is going to see this. It's the analogy, again, that I brought up with Concord. You guys are the Italian restaurant that's now trying to make Mexican food when people come to you for Italian food. But now you're going, well, we're going to make a little bit less of that, and we're going to hire some chefs that make Mexican food, but don't worry, this won't impact our Italian food. And yet it has. It's like Bungie's community manager going, oh, don't worry guys, there's no way Marathon's going to impact Destiny 2's development. There's no way. It's like, sure it's not. Right. So I keep getting a little distracted from the wall, and again, I'm sorry, because I'm like really just kind of gaming this out in my mind. But I look at PlayStation and I'm thinking like mainly about their future, and with decisions that they have been making, like, you know, removing single player first party games from PC. Okay, that's a revenue source that's lost. Okay, the live service initiative obviously not going well. You just released like what I would consider one of the major 4 players in their live service initiative, the second of the 4. And of the 4, it's like you have Concord, which fucking biggest failure in gaming history in my eyes. And then you have Marathon, which is selling quite, like, doing very well critically, doing very well for the audience that it has cultivated. It's doing extremely well. They're very happy. A lot of them are very happy with it. However, it is so hardcore and so niche that it is not attracting a wide enough audience to recoup even like a decent fraction of the hundreds of millions of dollars and the billions that have been invested in Bungie. This is not what PlayStation has wanted. And if you think any differently, I'm sorry, I think your head is in the sand on this. And then you have the third one, which is Fair Games, which has been MIA since May 2023. And it looks like shit. And then you have Horizon Hunters Gathering, which got announced earlier this year. And most people look at it, and I think most people looked at it and kind of like at bare minimum went like, eh? Like, this isn't really what I was expecting from Horizon, so like, eh? And that's a very kind reaction compared to a decent chunk of what has been out there. So there's that going on with it, where you have that aspect is not doing so great. Then you have the single player part of it, and this is something I have said for many, many years, that their emphasis on this massively budgeted single player stuff that, I'm sorry, is going through the law of diminishing returns right now, is not sustainable, and they're gonna have to bring in some smaller projects. Now, granted, they have been, and you have some that didn't do well. Like, you have Lego Horizon Adventures, which bombed. Then you have God of War Sons of Sparta, which did okay, did fine. But the thing is, those have smaller budgets, so you can recoup that. And it's like, if it sucks and it fails, then it's like, okay, well, it's not that big of a deal then. Meanwhile, if something like Intergalactic sells softly, or something like the rumored upcoming God of War spin-off game with Faye, Kratos' wife, second wife, as the lead character, then you're gonna have a real problem at Sony Santa Monica. You're gonna have a real problem at Naughty Dog. I think teams like Sucker Punch and Insomniac are going to be fine because they have IPs that are there. But that's also another problem that I consider part of the wall, is just a creative wall, where PlayStation now just seems to be in a position where they don't want to take any risks anymore because the risks they have deemed are just too expensive. And what sucks is I really was hoping Cory Barlog's game was going to be something different away from God of War, and now that doesn't seem to be the case. And as much as I like Faye as a character in Ragnarok, I'm like, it's an interesting idea, but I'd rather Cory Barlog not be the one at the helm of this. I'd rather somebody else within Sony Santa Monica be given the opportunity to do this. Cory Barlog, it's like, dude, you're so talented. And like, you really want to keep chaining yourself to God of War? Like, I guess. And then you have Intergalactic from Naughty Dog, which is a new IP, granted, but like, shit, the amount of money they've spent on that, it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's gonna do as well. Like, maybe what they're thinking. Like, I don't know. And then you have Saros, which I hate putting this out in the ether, but as good as that game looks, and it looks damn good, and it looks really fun. Like, I love some of the gameplay stuff I've seen from it. I worry about that game not meeting Sony's expectations and then Housemarque taking the brunt of that. Because this seems to really be Housemarque swinging for the fences as far as, everything they're good at with the gameplay and like frenetic combat and bullet hell action, and then taking the roguelike stuff from Returnal and making it, a little bit more casualized for a wider audience. So I don't have a problem with that. But I worry about Housemarque not meeting their sales expectations with Saros and then them getting fucking ass blasted. I worry about Team Asobi as well. I hate to put this out there, but I can honestly foresee a future where, like, look, as amazing as Astrobot was, it's like, I'm under no illusion, like, it's not like a massive seller like a Ragnarok, like an original Last of Us, like a God of War 2018, like a Ghost of Yotei. It's not in that league, and I worry that PlayStation is going to reach this point where they have carved so much of the meat off of the bone that they're gonna, maybe there come a day where it's not enough, and they're gonna start looking at other teams that are not part of like the major leagues. Like, PlayStation loves their awards, they love their prestige, and I'm glad that, I bet they're very happy with the awards that they got for Team Asobi and Astrobot. But when push comes to shove and Hiroki Totoki or Lin Tao or whoever at the top of Sony starts looking at PlayStation, it's like, you gotta make even more cuts because these budgets are out of control and you're not bringing in the shit that you need. They're gonna look at some beloved teams. I mean, they've already looked at beloved. I mean, fuck, Bluepoint is dead. I really worry like that they're gonna look at Team Asobi and be like, yeah, a little Astrobot, not enough. See ya. Because I feel like that's talent that you need to cultivate. But it just feels like PlayStation just doesn't. I don't know. It's almost like they don't care. It's almost like they're just like taking out any single thing that has even a minute chance of being like a risk nowadays. And then also you got Insomniac there, which, like, creatively, Insomniac are basically stuck in the Marvel mines now. And Insomniac, I feel like, should be doing original IPs. I feel like they should be trying, flexing their creative muscles, but they're just the Marvel studio now under PlayStation. Or the Ratchet and Marvel studio. Who knows when we're going to get a new Ratchet game, and even if it's going to be good. Who knows if they'll ever get a chance to make a new IP. They might just be stuck on Spider-Man and X-Men and Wolverine for, like, God knows how long. And then what also sucks is that with the price increases with the PS5 that happened today, I mean, I look at the PS6 and I'm thinking, like, shit, is that going to be even more expensive than the PS5? Is that going to be like $800 out the box? Is this going to be like our first like mainstream console that costs over $1,000? Because it's like, it's going to be more powerful than the PS5 Pro. It's like, so if that comes out and it's up there as far as price, I mean, they're gonna have a really hard time building a larger install base. And then you have these exclusives that you're gonna make for the PS6 that are gonna cost a lot of money if you don't make them cross-gen, which I have a feeling something like Spider-Man 3 or the next Horizon game are probably going to be cross-gen whenever Horizon 3 comes out. Because it's like, fuck, we release this like $300 million plus game do we release it for a single generation, newer generation console, or do we release it for both gens? These are some tough decisions they're going to have to make, but I just feel like through some economic circumstances that are beyond their control, and then things that they have that's like, we have reached a breaking point now where they have just snowballed over the years when they could have just been making better decisions. And here we are. And now the wall is here. The wall, I feel like, has been hit. And it's not, I don't know. I really don't know with PlayStation right now. I don't know. They might, I think they learned a valuable lesson with Concord, that they can only push it with their audience so far to a point before even like they lose them. And I feel like over this generation, with not like a lot of casual people who just kind of buy PlayStation for like Fortnite and shit like that, and then they'll occasionally buy a PlayStation Studios game like Spider-Man or God of War. But I feel like for a lot of hardcore people who like really care about PlayStation's legacy, who keep an eye on them from a day-to-day basis, like I do, because I care and I find it interesting to look at them. I feel like they have just, throughout this generation, have just systematically destroyed so much of the goodwill that they got during the second half of the PS3 gen and throughout most of the PS4 gen. I think they have taken steps to try to rectify certain things that their hardcore audience finds egregious, like the overemphasis on live services, like the fact that it feels like we're getting less and less actual PS5 exclusives these days. So it's like, why the fuck did I even buy this console if everything's just going to go to PC eventually anyway? And I think that's perfectly fine. You know, emphasis on smaller games as well. I think that's very good. They are getting into bed with certain projects that I do appreciate, like Marvel Tokon, like I've mentioned. I love Kena Scars of Kazumora. I'm very happy they're publishing that. I think that's a great idea. But I think they have a massive wall to overcome over these next few years leading into the PS6 gen. I am worried about the future of PlayStation. I'm worried about them from a business perspective. I'm worried about them from a creative perspective. I'm very concerned about the output that's gonna come next generation. Yeah, I'm just concerned about PlayStation. So for many reasons, and these fucking price increases and them closing these studios down recently, and just like that does nothing to increase my confidence in what they're doing. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you all next time. Goodbye.